Okay, all right. So let's start our today's session. And greetings, everyone. And welcome to the 9th follow-up training for Asia Pacific Winter School participants and Policy Evaluation Fall School participants. So I'm on stick. Is it changing? Is the slide changing?
No.
Okay, now it's done. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm Orantistic. I'm co-leader of Evaluate Asia based in Mongolia. So I will be a moderator today. And before we start, I'd like to introduce our main rules today. So please rename yourself with this format, which is first name, last name, and your gender pronouns. And then please ensure your camera and microphone are turned off when you are not speaking. And for the questions during the training session, you can use the chat, or you can ask your questions during the Q&A sessions. Okay, so the training objectives, it is to enhance the knowledge and skills in focus group discussions for evaluation studies, and also to strengthen the evaluation networks in Asia Pacific and to connect YEs with more experienced evaluations. Okay, so with that, I want to introduce Ms. Matuka, who is a co-leader of Evaluate Asia, for the opening remarks today. And please welcome Matuka. Over to you.
Thank you, Luca. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is on behalf of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association and Evaluate Asia. I welcome you all to the new follow-up session. And I'm very happy to say this is, we started this follow-up training sessions in 2022 May. So far, we have completed 8 follow-up sessions, and this is the 9th one, and this will be the last one for this year. And actually, myself as a YE, personally, I have learned a lot from these follow-up sessions, and I hope you all have benefited from these follow-up sessions throughout last 2 years. And today also I'm looking forward for very interesting session, and which is based on very interesting topic on focus group discussions, and with our excellent facilitator, Karuna Gupta. And actually she did the last month follow-up session also. This is kind of continuation of last month session. And I'm very much looking forward for this session, and I hope you too also actively participate in today's session and enjoy the session. Thank you. Over to you, Uga.
Okay, thank you, Matuka. So now let's move to our main session. And so as Matuka mentioned, today's instructor would be Charuna Gupta, who is Secretary General of European Evaluation Society, and she will be discussing on focus group discussions for evaluation studies. Please welcome Ms. Charuna. Over to you.
Thanks, Uga. I'm just going to try to share my slides now. Just let me know if everything's okay. Can you see my slides?
We can see your screen. Yeah, now we can. Okay.
You can see the presenter view or the correct view?
You want to put it on presentation mode?
Yeah, so you can see the slides clearly without notes, right?
I think
No, it's
with notes.
It's with notes?
With notes.
Is it better now?
Now it's complete.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. I've been having computer trouble, as always happens right before a presentation. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're joining us again, I really appreciate you taking the time to engage with us today. So this is about a 30-minute discussion about focus group discussions, about focus groups. And I'm really glad or thankful to colleagues who took the time to submit questions about focus group discussions. This training is completely customized, so it's not a brief about focus group discussions, but answers very specific questions and concerns that came from you. I'm going to repeat what I said last week, which is impossible to cover everything about focus group discussions in 30 minutes. And if you are really struggling with this topic, I encourage you to look into qualitative research methods books. And in case you have a focus group and you want a checklist or something, just go on Google and look for guides for focus groups. And there's so many, and you can sort of pick and choose what works for you. I've kept in mind focus groups which are in person and online, but I want to really clarify that my personal opinion is that you cannot hold a focus group discussion online. And like I said, that's for me. We've tried it and it's not working well. You lose a lot of the observational data because in low resolution settings, you can't have the cameras on. And whenever I'm seeing it, I'm seeing there's quite a struggle there. Especially through COVID, I've led so many focus groups, and in low resolution settings where the videos are off, it's a real challenge. And having said that, I also want you all to know that this is my way of approaching focus group discussions. It's tailored per evaluation, per research study, and there's not one sort of way fits all. So in case you feel that, oh, that didn't work for me, you can either question me or try to understand that it's what I'm saying, it doesn't cover absolutely everything. So for those of you who kind of want a quick brief about focus group discussions, what I wanted to say to you is that, so focus group discussions in their essence is, they're organized to explore a specific set of issues. And the group is focused in the sense that it involves a homogeneous group of people. And by homogeneous, we mean by hierarchy or by age, collectively focused on discussing one topic, right? It's a collective activity. Historically, focus groups were used for market research, and then slowly they came into social science. They're a qualitative means of research, and they're led by a facilitator or a moderator. So when we are evaluators, when we run focus group discussions, we are either the moderator or the facilitator. Usually, you want between 6 and 8 people in your focus group discussion. You rarely ever have more than 12 or less than 4. So between 4 and 12, and a lot of people say that 8 is the ideal, but I really believe that it depends on you, on how many people you want in that group and how many people you can sort of facilitate. Like I said, keep the group drawn by specific issues, like whether they're a family or a community, and the status, again, homogeneous. So many people use the word homogeneous, and we have a question about it, focus group being homogeneous. It's about, I'm just going to quickly talk about this. Like when we were in our companies in London, and if we're talking about between our peers, we're going to talk about management differently if my boss is in that meeting. If my boss is in that meeting, it has repercussions for me. Whereas if I'm just talking to my colleagues, everyone is saying something bad or good about management, so it doesn't matter. So this is where we don't want hierarchy at all within a focus group, right? The length of a focus group is ideally about 1.5 hours. Longer than this, people tend to tire. And for you as a researcher, the amount of transcription and data analysis is going to be quite a lot. And so the other thing is focus groups. What are the most common research designs? So we normally use focus groups in 2 ways in an evaluation, at least that's how I do it, is at the beginning. If I'm really lost as to, we have the evaluation questions, or it's a really broad scope, I've had this before, and I sort of really want to narrow it down, I might have a focus group discussion to get to like in research, they develop hypothesis, right? But for me, it's about identifying the most pressing issues within my frame of research and then developing my guide. So I might do a focus group at the beginning, or I might do a focus group right at the end. So I just did a survey in my last evaluation, and there was 400 respondents. It was a large scale survey, and it was in English and French, and it was very complicated. And we had closed questions, and then we had open questions. And the open questions, they didn't make sense. Like people were, we had 95% agree. And then in the comments, people were disagreeing. And we're like, did they not understand our survey questions? What happened here? So in that case, the most ideal thing you can do, if you have resources and budget, is have a focus group discussion to sort of decongest what you're seeing. So that's just a really quick basics on focus group discussions. And this is the first question we got from you as participants, which is what sort of inquiry is best suited for focus group methods? So focus group methods are best when you want to understand what is an individual's personal ideas, opinions, and understanding of a research task or ideas. So for example, I did the stock taking for the next eval agenda. Right now, we are eval agenda 2030 is being developed, right? And we wanted to know what are people's ideas and opinions of what should go into the next eval agenda. And we didn't want them to speak. Some spoke as the organization spoke, some spoke as individuals. So running focus groups for that was a very good idea or way of approaching it. What was the other way is some time ago, I did an evaluation of the International AIDS Conference. It was the first online conference, and they had given bursaries, just like how many of the evaluation societies, they give bursaries to people from low-income countries. And we had focus group discussions with the people of the bursaries to understand what was their experience of the AIDS conference, especially when it was done remotely. And so it was a sense-making exercise. And so there's two places where you're going to use a focus group. When you want to solicit individual people's opinions, or when as a group, you assume that they don't have individual opinions of this, but they're going to come together and collectively make sense of what come sense. So this is normally when you use it, but there are some key considerations about using focus group discussions. And the first thing is, what's the purpose of your research? So, you look at the types of evaluation questions, and whether there's sort of room for, individuals. And if there isn't, you're not quite looking for this kind of information, like what their personal opinions is, maybe you don't hold a focus group. And you have to have a lot of qualitative, your commissioner has to agree that the kind of output is going to be qualitative, and that's okay. If they're looking for more quantitative, then don't go for a focus group discussion, because one thing that's really important to know is that focus group discussions are small. They're not representative, right? They're not representative of a big group. And you can't get enough comparative data from them that you're going to say that from a focus group discussion, this is what we've understood. They're more for developing some level of depth into all your findings. And the other thing that I would like to say is that before choosing a focus group, you have to understand that it's a different skill set to run a focus group than an individual interview. You need to have observational skills. You need to ideally have an assistant for note-taking and help you with the logistics. You get completely different data. So you need to really consider what's the purpose of your research, what kind of output you want, and any practical aspects of can you actually manage it before you decide, okay, this is best suited for me. A lot of people talk about focus group discussions and they say it's more about the group interaction than anything else. And when I started this, I really never understood this point, because no one talks to you about exactly what are you looking at in the group interaction. And I wanted to develop, this is not a question, but I thought it would be really useful to some of you to understand why the group interaction is useful. And later on, I'll come back to this point. But what I want to say is that you have to, what I was saying before when I talked about management, is that you have to know that in a key informant interview, what someone will say as an individual person and how the same person will act is how the same person will act with their peers is very different. And this change of perspective is very important, and what you capture in a focus group discussion. Focus group discussions, the group participants and there's a big difference in how they're behaving. And I would say that when you pay attention to this, what you're trying to do is you're trying to explore the differences between the group participants. And this is why I said it's a special skill set to run a focus group discussion. Because when people are talking, you're taking notes, but you're seeing where are their differences. So you can ask the right focus, you can see what are their points of conflict, right? The next thing you can do, you are trying to understand is what are their underlying assumptions. So many people, when they clarify what they mean, they have assumptions in what they're saying. So it's really important to be able to identify their assumptions. It's important to be able to identify what are their sort of differences. And in case people are convinced by another person's argument, you have to see what was the influencing factor. So what influenced them to change their mind? And again, I'll talk about the International AIDS Conference. A lot of people were talking about in person being more important next time. And it was really interesting because a lot of people were saying, but no, I could be home, I could be. So what we found in that evaluation was that people who had families and it was harder for them to travel, they wanted an online conference, right? Because it made their lives. Sorry, is someone trying to say something? Uga?
Okay, you can
okay.
continue, Tara.
Okay, sorry. So, like I was saying, sorry, I just lost my thought there, is that in the AIDS conference, people who wanted it online had commitments in their local areas, whereas people who wanted to travel, who wanted to build up their CV, who wanted the experience of a different country, and especially those who had not, they sent internet packages to these people as part of their bursary scheme because they were not going to be traveling. And people who had challenges with the internet or their bosses didn't let them, join the conference. They are the people who said, no, we don't want, we want to travel. We don't want online conferences. So while you're in a focus group discussion to actually identify those influences, it's a difficult thing to do. And also the other part then becomes the facilitator part, which is, when you're trying to figure out this person, we're coming to it about someone being louder or someone not speaking, what's inhibiting them, what group dynamics, what's happening here, that's, sort of a problem. Okay, I'm just going to move on. So the next question was, how many members should be present to smoothly conduct a focus group discussion and what roles should they play? So ideally, if you have the budget, they normally say 3. One is the main facilitator and moderator asking questions, probing, and just generally making sure there's a smooth flow. One is a note taker and one is an observer. So these issues that are brought about the group interaction, that's what the observer is doing. And the note taker is just, taking notes. And another trick that I use, which I might talk about later, is I normally have in front of me the names of all the participants in the focus group. And when they speak, I put a tally mark, like a line, right? To see how many times they've engaged. So when that way, it's really easy for me to see the people who are speaking and engaging a lot and the people who are not, right? So this is sort of what your note taker is doing, and similar. But in reality, with evaluators, we don't have these liberties. I have normally run a focus group discussion on my own, and it's very, very difficult. And if it's in person, the best has been that, I've just prepared a lot, everything that I'm doing. And I go there maybe 2 hours before to make sure the room is ready, etc. So, about taking notes, it's hard. We're going to come to that. So yeah, the ideal is 3. It ends up normally being 1 or 2. And yeah, it can be difficult. Sometimes my opinion again on this is if you can even pay some of your daily fee, if you're an individual consultant, to someone as an assistant, that would help a lot. Even, just someone who's starting and stopping the recording so you don't have to think about absolutely everything, that would be a huge help. So I received 3 questions on this topic, and the reason they're colored in blue is because they're talking more about facilitation of a focus group discussion than actually the logistics or the qualitative, why focus group discussion, what are they, the theory. So I will spend quite a bit of time on this slide. One thing I just highlighted is the question says, how do you get diverse views and build consensus? Again, I just want to say that this is a bit contradictory, because if you're getting diverse views, you're not building consensus. I said this last week, and I'll say it again, that with qualitative research, we are not trying to build consensus. We want as differing views and depth of information as possible. And that's why I've highlighted it in red. So just to read these 3 questions, which I see as related. I'm mostly concerned on how to facilitate the focus group so that it is inclusive for all. Focus groups discussion are captured by a few people speaking the most. Deference within even homogeneous community also prevents others from speaking. So how do I get a diverse view and build consensus? How to be assertive with time, ensuring everyone gets a fair chance to participate while also deeply listening and without offending anyone who speaks more. So it's really important to understand that, and what this is about power. Among focus group participants, there's dimensions of power, and there's dimensions of power with the facilitator onto the participants, because traditionally research and evaluation is done to the participants. It's not done in collaboration with participants. And this is what this person is saying, even within a homogeneous community, because even within a homogeneous community, you have someone who, for example, between your peers who you defer to, whose opinion you defer to. All of these issues create always this underlying hierarchy. So what happens when there's this group dynamics is what's happened here, where the person is saying that someone is more vocal. There's lack of participation, which means that there's few individuals within the group or the entire group themselves who are just not speaking. And this is a difficult thing to facilitate. Some participants are talking on the side, or you see, if the video is on, you see people are chatting on the side. They're not listening. They're not, or in person, you see people whispering. It's actually really can be quite frustrating. And it's with a group of adults, it's really hard. Like you're like, oh, what are they saying? In terms of the research, they're distracting other people. They're setting a precedence that's okay. So these are all about power dynamics. And sometimes when members disagree amongst themselves, right? This creates this polarity where people stop engaging because they're angry that they weren't heard and all of this. And the last thing about power is that don't forget that sexism, classism, racism, ableism, ageism, all of these things will always be present in a focus group discussion and create these power imbalances. There's nothing we can do about them. I'm not one of these people who says that, no, they don't exist. I'm more like aware of them and say that, okay, these exist and this is what I'm going to do about them. So coming back to these questions, I really reiterated to you that it's important to understand these power dynamics. And later on, people have asked, how do you create innovative groups, etc. And when I run a focus group discussion, I spend the first 20, 30 minutes just being very simplistic to try to understand the group, the people. And before I bring anything innovative into the focus group discussion or anything, it's really important to understand the participants, the power dynamics, and how you're going to deal with it. So going back to this thing about someone being really vocal, there's 2 or 3 things you can do. The first thing is the code of conduct. So you have to set expectations from the beginning. And you're going to tell everyone that, you're going to have to give people time to speak. We have 1.5 hours. We're here to hear from everyone, etc., etc. Yeah. So this is a really important thing. But also, another thing that has worked recently, I've seen it being done a lot, is that you tell the focus group that we're going to collaborate and we're going to develop the code of conduct together. So how do you want this focus group to be run? So when people have created the rules themselves, that helps them to understand that, this is what we're doing. We're trying to shape our research. We're trying to give everyone space to speak. And this is, good. One of the researchers actually told me the feedback to their session was that I was speaking a lot, and I knew that when I asked for other ideas, that when the facilitator asks for other ideas, it was their turn to listen and to stop speaking. So creating a code of conduct actually worked in the facilitator's favor. Now, I want to point 2 things about loud people, right? If they're dominant, you have to gently sort of redirect them to ensure that you get other perspectives. But you don't want to shame them. You don't want to dissuade them, because then they're playing a valuable role by giving you information. Maybe there's something really bothering them and they're able to share it with you. And by sort of cutting them off or being strict to them or showing them that, no, you are taking people's time, this is a really, I think it's not a good practice, because then you're going to you might end up with no one engaging in your group, right? So phrases like, thank you so much for sharing. I want to pause here and see if others have something similar or different thoughts. Or you can praise them and say, you shared some really interesting ideas here. Now I'm curious to think what others have to say. So the main thing is you're redirecting them, asking them to pause, but not embarrassing them. Now, a lot of people want the people who are shy to speak up, but you have to also kind of manage that gently, because you don't want to put them on the spot. And so it's like, say, let's hear another voice regarding this important issue. Or I think that you can change the format. So one thing that I found really useful is completely changing the format of the focus group discussion. You say we're going to introduce the concept of a talking stick. So you speak for 1 minute, and then my helper here is going to tell you when 1 minute is up, and you have to pass the talking stick to someone else. So talking stick, we actually also use it in a lot of meetings. I'm sitting on some advisory boards or etc. And talking stick, I mean, maybe some of you have come up with that. It's just like a mic. The concept is of a mic in your head, and then you pass the mic to someone else after you've spoken. And they sometimes call it the popcorn style format. So this is also a really interesting thing. If you suspect that the group that you're going to engage with are going to be quiet. So we did for the food summit, the UN Food Summit, I did a focus group with youth, and I wasn't sure if they were going to engage. So we told them before that they can share any thoughts they had. People have a more, let's say, formatted way of doing this. So they allow people, they say to the participants before a focus group discussion, you can journal your thoughts on the focus group discussion, and then you can share them during. Because a lot of people, when you ask them a question, they freeze. They have thoughts about it, but there are people who need to go back to their desk, think about an answer before speaking. They don't feel comfortable on the spot to speak, right? So this gives them opportunity. We did a study with APEA earlier this year, and we talked about participatory action research and participatory authentic youth participation. And there's something like photo voice. So using art-based activities. So if, again, like if you think that you don't want to risk this issue of, you don't think the code of conduct is going to work with this group, or you don't think that you can redirect well, your facilitation skills aren't working so much, then I suggest that you use this method of sort of redirecting, telling them, bring photographs about this issue to the meeting, and then they take their photograph and they explain why they brought it. It just generates conversations and in group interaction. But like I said, what's important over here, and I'll reiterate it later on as well, is it's not the photographs that they take. Those are not important to us. It's what they elicit from the group. So make sure that you don't get distracted by this. Another thing that maybe some of you have just seen the time as well, and we have a few slides to go through, is you might want to look at scaffolded focus groups. There's actually a paper on this, and what it is about is you start with a survey, then a small focus group, and then a large focus group discussion. And this is supposed to break power dynamics across the board. So it might be something you want to look at as well. I hope that answers the question, but let me know later on. And then, so what are different exercises, tools to be implemented in a focus group discussion, how to conduct innovative focus group discussions, which are not just question answer based, but more around participatory and experiential. So I've just already told you about the talking stick, etc. One thing I want you to be very careful about is that when you do these games, you really need to understand your participants. And maybe you have prepared one of these sort of innovative tools or exercises, and you might decide not to do them when you go into group, because people can be think you're treating them like children, you know, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. So it backfires. Many times I wanted to use these things, and everyone has said just don't. One thing I always like to do, especially if you don't have help, is to write summary ideas on a flip chart, and then the group comments on that, saying that yes, that's what captures our discussion really well. It doesn't capture it. Can you change this, or etc. etc. So these, I think, are really useful. Flip chart, or if you're doing it online, you know, just share a screen. I thought I would share one thing about using a card game. So a card is like you literally cut out a piece of paper, and it can have a statement on it, or an account, or a description, or an opinion. And then, so you ask a question and you say, what are the factors? Let me give a more concrete example. So you're in an old age home, and what about quality of care? So what are the factors that are important to you as an old person in this home? And you have to put it in the order. So the first person who speaks in the group, the participant, you tell them to put it, these are the factors that are most important to me. And then the next person can come in and say, well, no, I don't quite agree with that format. This is how you do it. And you just Google the card game for focus group. There's so many ways and configurations of doing it, but because of time, I don't want to go through all my examples that I came. But I just want to tell you the card game, why it's good is it encourages people to not focus on you as the facilitator, which can be quite sometimes, it scares people off. It can make them to sort of start focusing on the cards. And especially when someone has presented their view, and they're like, oh, I don't quite agree with that, and I have a different reasoning, it just encourages them. It makes them bolder to engage with you. And always, if you do a card game, my opinion is that you should start with the person who is quiet or the second last from being the quietest, because otherwise the people who are, it doesn't quiet or they're not expressing so much, they might reluctantly agree with the opinions of the dominant people in the group. So just look into these methods. So in terms of note-taking, are there ways or techniques in which you can record, collect, capture data skillfully when recording is not possible? I said this last week, and I think it's note-taking. And what you have to learn to do is when there's a meeting, you might see on the secretary, or I've been secretary for many organizations. The reason is that it makes my note-taking really good. When there's a meeting, I love to take notes. And by taking those notes, I'm becoming a better evaluator. So this is my number one thing, that if you want to become better at note-taking, practice. There's no other way. I have talked to a lot of people. I even attended training courses on this. There's actually absolutely very little other things you can do. I'm just going to, so analysis and reporting of data from focus group discussions. I'm going to plug in 6 methods of analysis. So listing, coding, content analysis, discourse analysis, conversation analysis, ethnographic analysis. This is how you can sort of analyze focus group discussion data. But we won't go through this. I wasn't planning anyway to go through all of these things with you. I'll just put them in the chat, and you're going to have some self-study and Google and understand them. But I have put on my details for LinkedIn and Twitter there, so you can always connect and reach out in case, in case it will be useful to you. But I'm going to stop there for question and answers, and I will stick in the chat those different means of analysis that I was going to tell you. But like I said, even if we had time, we wouldn't be able to go through them. You need quite some time to understand these things. I'm going to stop there for questions. Thank you. I hope that was helpful.
Okay, thank you, Taruna. I hope it was helpful and useful for everyone. For me, it was very helpful and fruitful. And especially the one you mentioned about the card game to ensure the participation. Yeah, I think I should try it when I do the focus group discussion later. So now let's move to our next session. And I want to, first let me share the screen full. Yeah, and now I'd like to open the floor for the Q&A session. And I want to ask every participant to use the chat for the question, or feel free to unmute your microphone and ask a question directly.
Also, in case you submitted a question and it wasn't answered well enough, you can just clarify. Please don't hesitate.
Let me see in the chat if you have, there isn't anyone. Okay, so if there is no question yet, I have one. And we have one person raised hand. Please unmute yourself. Priyakala.
Yeah, thank you, Taruna, for your comprehensive presentation. Very awesome. I got lots of points. So my question is like whenever we conduct a focus group discussion on certain topics, like what we do is like we select like 5 or 6 group, and in a sequence we conduct discussions and then collect all the observations and the input given by the participants, and then we go for analysis. So in that case, do you think the input given by the participants are representative, or still they are not? Because we are not arriving at conclusion just with one discussion. We are conducting like 5 discussion at least on the same subject.
Look, it really depends on the size and everything, but the first thing that I have been taught is good practice is that you don't do analysis at the end. And I hope I know that's not your question, but I just wanted to sort of say that to you, that if you're doing analysis, it's better to do one focus group analysis and then move to the next one. Because what might happen is that your topic guide, you might be tailoring it as you go to get more depth. Now, if I don't believe focus groups can be representative of, even if you have 5. And I did read literature on this, and I can try to find the paper that says that. But they tend not to be representative, because 5 people, even if they're, for example, I did the focus group for the Eval Agenda 2030. Let's just take that one, right? If I'm speaking to 5 people from Nepal, 5 people from Colombia, 5 people from Kenya, 5 people from Europe, from London, that is not representative of what those regions or countries say about what should go in Eval Agenda 2030. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's just not. It's absolutely not. But what I've got from them is a depth. And if you are looking for this representative data, then you need to look at quantitative approaches and not qualitative. Yeah. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's helpful, but I have a follow-up question to what you said. So like, suppose we have like 50 participants from a village, like which is like very much homogeneous, right? In order to like manage the numbers, so we are going for five focus group discussion. So in that case, are they still not representative? They are in every way homogeneous.
It's not about homogeneity. The reason we have homogeneous groups is to not create hierarchy, right? We're not creating homogeneous groups for representation, right?
Yeah.
So,
oh, I didn't follow you. Sorry.
Okay, so we have a homogeneous group. The reason is not to create a hierarchy.
Yeah.
So if you want, you can generate some quantitative data. This is actually the only instance that you can have quantitative data if you're comparing what you had from those groups. But okay, you say you have 50 people. How many people are there in the community?
Probably like 1,000 or something. Yeah, it's a village, so like, yeah.
So if you think those 50 people represent 1,000 people's view.
Okay.
That's the question, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah, got it. Got your point. Yeah.
Homogeneity is about making focus groups more engaging and effective so that people speak up. They are not oppressed. That's why I brought in this issue of power dynamics, because a lot of people think homogeneity is just, like you said, about a research methodology or representation. It's not. It's to break down power dynamics in a focus group.
Yeah. Thanks, Taruna, for your explanation.
No worries.
Okay, is there any question from other participants? Let me see the chat. We don't have. Okay, so I want to use this time, and when I do focus group discussions, I always face a difficulty, like some of the participants not willing to like speak a lot, like just briefly answering the question or like not willing to answer. So in that case, I just try to specifically ask them and to clarify their opinions by asking them, what is your opinion on that? But even though I asked like specifically from those who are willing to be silent, they answer like, I agree with these participants, or like my answer is the same with his. So in that case, like, should we leave that participants with such brief answer, or is there any other like method to encourage the participants to talk more? Like maybe in not in a pushy way, but like encouraging.
Yeah, so Uga, I think this is what we spoke about. In that moment, if you're not prepared of asking different questions, it's really difficult because some people are just so intimidated by the group, right? I've had this so much, and this is why I said, like, it's good to have a backup of the card game, or you take photographs yourself, right? And maybe they introduce a photograph and say, what does this make you feel like? Or, you know, a chart, its photograph is not always helpful. It's just because we did renewable energy project, and we had photographs, and, you know, we were able to elicit something about what was happening in this camp that was important to you. So what you can use different methods, but in that moment, if someone is really resisting engaging, there's very little you can do, and pushing them more will just make them sort of go in, you know, they'll sort of revert more into themselves. So, but if they're saying we agree with that person, maybe the next question you ask, you tell them to start. Or you do the talking stick again. You know, you say that we're going to start a talking stick and you're going to be speaking first. You're going to answer this question first, not the other person. So you give them, try to make room for them. And always there's the option of saying, okay, we're just going to take a break here. Yeah. And then, and I'm going to give you time to prepare for the next question. So the next question is XYZ. And sometimes when people have this minute to go think about what they're going to say, or you can even say to the person who's really not speaking, so we're going to take a break here, but when we come back, Uga, you're going to start by answering the question if you don't mind, and this is the question. So just giving them that space might help them to engage. Yeah.
Instead of asking them again and again and pushing.
Yeah, no, that just, they might feel more on the spot. Yeah, and
good. I think it's a good idea. Thank you. Okay. So is there any other question?
I just want to also say to, I think it was Priyakala who asked.
Yeah, yes, Tarun.
Yeah, I'm really thinking about your issue about representation, and is there a reason that you can't do survey and focus group together in your community?
Yeah, we couple couple of data collection method. Like we don't rely on one, like it's about triangulation. So we couple, like, you know, more than one data collection method, and then we come at analysis.
Okay, so yeah, I think that if you did your survey, look at scaffolded focus groups as well. They might help you. So you do the survey, then you do the small focus group, and then large. This might work well for you in your situation.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Tarun.
Okay, I think we don't have any more questions. So before we move to the closing part, I'd like to ask everyone to open your camera and take a group photo for the last session of this year. So please, everyone, open your camera and show us your beautiful face. Madhuka, are you ready?
Yes, so I'm waiting to everyone to open the camera if possible. So let's wait a couple of more seconds. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to count to 3 and then take the photo. So have a good smile. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to now invite for our closing remark. I'd like to invite Dr. Asela, President of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association. So please welcome Dr. Asela. Over to you.
Thank you, Uka. Thank you, everyone. And I'm really happy to make these closing remarks of the 9th follow-up training for Asia Pacific Winter School, Fall School and Winter School participants on focus group discussions for evaluation studies. Taruna Gupta gave us insights. And we must also thank Uka for the moderation. Now, we had a series of these programs for the winter school and fall school participants as capacity building. I think definitely Asia Pacific Evaluation Association will continue this in future as well. At the same time, why we conducted this? Because we believe that capacity building is very important, especially young professionals, young evaluators. We have, as you know, we have the regional evaluation strategy. As part of the regional evaluation strategy, we are working with different stakeholders. We have a great force of volunteers. Most of you are also part of the volunteer groups. That also creates a lot of opportunities, networking, and contribute to evaluation capacity building and evaluation culture in the region. So in this sense, all the programs we are doing are important. Now we are very closer to the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association evaluation conference to be held in early December. We are also going to have the 4th winter school at at the APIA conference. We previously had virtual conferences, so this is the first time we are going to have this face-to-face winter school. So it is very exciting. With that note, I think in Asia Pacific region, the capacity building is continuing with a lot of support from different other regions as well, because we were able to connect resource persons from various regions. Our moderators are from various countries and regions. At the same time, we have good participation from not only from Asia Pacific but other regions as well. We also have, as you know, series of webinars and some other programs. At the same time, we have ongoing program to promote evaluation culture in the region. So what I want to request you is that all the participants do not only limit to this capacity building programs, join our task forces, join our groups, teams of the regional evaluation strategy, as well as work with our teams, expand your horizons, expand your networks, and improve your career in monitoring and evaluation. We are there to support. So we are really happy to conclude this follow-up training with all of you. And again, I thank Taruna and Uga for facilitating this session. And also I must thank APIA team and all the volunteers for making this, not only this session, the series a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Soda, and for summarizing today's event and also for the inspiring information that you shared about the capacity building. And for the last information, as there will be no next session about the winter school follow-up training, we have the upcoming first Asia Pacific Evaluation Conference in Manila, Philippines on December. And also we have our next winter school there. So I'd like to invite all of you to get information and register using the link here and also the QR code here. And see you all in Manila. So this is for today. Thank you everyone for the participants and for Taruna, Maduka, and for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.